the matter, Hangman? Can't sleep.
Cowboy shit!
I need my older brother.
Who the fuck is Griff Garrison? Goddamn baby, back real.
You are now listening to Dark Side of the Elite with Randy Charpentier, Eric Reed, and Matt Roberts.
Hey everybody, Randy Zane66 here, the Dark Side of the Elite, along with Eric and Matt. And guess what? Today we have not just only the coolest, not just only the best, we have just incredible. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. See, you kind of took my thing because I was going to throw that in there, but I'll save that for the close of the show. But I'm doing fantastic. I'm doing great, guys. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's definitely a pleasure having you today. We just have a couple of questions today. We have like 8 different questions, I think, here.
Cool.
Going over mostly when we look them over, they're mostly on memory questions for you. So again, we appreciate you being here, and I guess Matt, you can definitely start it off.
PJ, it's really nice to talk to you. 15-year-old me would not have thought I'd have a chance to talk to Just Incredible one day, but it's really cool for me.
Really?
My earliest memories of pro wrestling are really like Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior from WrestleMania up here in Toronto, and that's when I really fell in love with wrestling, arguing with my friends, who's going to win? You're a Hulkster or you're an Ultimate Warrior fan? I was just wondering for you, what's your earliest memory of professional wrestling, or is there a moment that you go back to as like the first moment that you really fell in love with professional wrestling?
For me, it was 1989, and it was Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat. I got the privilege to go see them live at a live event here in Connecticut where I live. And it was a small place, only like 3,000-4,000 fans in attendance. But the quality of match and the emotion, and they were so hard hitting and believable. I'm in WWF country as well. You know, Stamford, the headquarters is, half an hour from my house. So I've always been, a WWE guy. But to see Flair and Steamboat, and it was so drastically different, is, I fell in love with pro wrestling that day. I mean, that was it for me. I was 15 years old and in 1989, and that was really what made me want to, become a pro wrestler.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's a good match to start off with, too.
Yeah. Right.
Like a really good match.
They had that legendary 3-pack of matches. I remember watching the Chi-Town Rumble not that long ago as well.
Yep.
And yeah, it's really cool to go back
Still
and watch
holds
those.
up too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely does.
Yeah.
So you started, I guess, your career in 1992 with the Hart Brothers training camp, right?
Yep.
Keith Hart. How hard was it training there? And how was it following, I guess, one of your trainers, Lance Storm, along the way in your journey of wrestling?
What made the training so difficult, 12 wrestlers started originally in camp. And by the end of the 2-month program, only 2 were left, myself and actually someone from Thunder Bay, Ontario. His real name is Brett Farrell, but he wrestled under Big Daddy Hammer in the local indies. And, so yeah, that's how it really all kind of started. It was just very difficult. I mean, they really made you do all kinds of drills and bumps, and it was insane. So it was very hard, and they did that on purpose to kind of see who really was dedicated and who would stick around. And we obviously showed the fortitude and stuff that was needed to be a wrestler, because at the time it was really intense and very selective, because there was still a lot of kayfabe and stuff like that. So it was not just pay to play. Whoever gives you the money could become a wrestler. It was still very, very much competitive and selective.
I was going to ask you, when you first joined the World Wrestling Federation, what was going through your mind, or how were you feeling that very first time walking into that dressing room there with all the huge stars, and just what that experience was like, and if there was anyone that kind of took you under their wing to show you the ropes, or just kind of how you felt that first time walking into a WWF arena, locker room?
It's funny you say that on this day, because somebody just posted on Twitter that today was the day that I first debuted on WWE TV as PJ Walker versus Lex Luger.
I saw that on Twitter, I think.
Yeah, and I wasn't aware of this, but that was the first time I ever walked into a WWF locker room, and it was surreal. I mean, just to see a lot of my heroes, first of all, back there, Luger being one of them, Randy Savage, Roddy Piper, Vince, Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty. It was ridiculous. And what I noticed more than anything was just how big they were and how larger than life these guys were. I mean, they looked like superheroes.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that is so different about wrestling. And me back then, believe it or not, I was 6 foot, 215 pounds as a young man, which was pretty big, and I looked like a little person compared to these, giants. So it was very humbling. And, and I'll get into it later on in the show, but that's kind of what I see just from the naked eye of, sometimes what's not so right, even though wrestling has really grown leaps and bounds. It's still something to see guys that look like that. And I was not big into the steroid guys, don't get me wrong, but it's still like, it was something to behold, to see guys that were that big and athletic, even Shawn Michaels, which we think, oh, he was a little guy. He's 6'1", 6'1.5", 225 pounds in great shape. Yeah. So all these guys were just, what I'm trying to say is they were super athletes, and it was just like they were elite athletes. So it kind of is like today, if you own a pair of tights and you're 150 pounds and can do some backflips, you're a wrestler. Back then, it took so much more. So, it's just, back then it was just a lot different,
Absolutely. No doubt about that. Shortly after your WWF debut, you were presented with the Aldo Montoya gimmick. Yeah. I was wondering if you could let us know what it was, how that was presented to you, who came up with the idea. I believe it was supposed to be a soccer inspiration, which turned into the Portuguese Man of War. If you could just tell us what it was like being presented with that gimmick and what your initial thoughts were on it.
I was offered the contract by Vince McMahon. He pulled me aside on TV, and we took a walk outside, just Vince and I. But he didn't present the Aldo gimmick to me. He just said, we're going to bring you on board and sign you to a contract, which was crazy in itself, And when I went to the office to see what it was, they wanted to, talk to me and see what I was going to be comfortable with. And at first they gave me a picture, a cartoon drawing of a soccer player because, it was going to be the World Cup that year. And they wanted to kind of capitalize on the World Cup and going overseas as well. When that didn't work out, they killed that themselves. They had this drawing of what looked like a Power Ranger with Road Warrior shoulder pads, and Aldo looked way different on paper than it looked in real life. But still, it looked really cool. It looked like it could have been the Lucha Libre gimmick at first. Mm-hmm. And but when I got there, they gave me the outfit 2 hours before showtime, and unfortunately, it was nothing like what they drew up. Right. So it was a bit disappointing, but still, I understood. That this was just going to be an opening gimmick in my career. And, it was just, one small step kind of in getting into the bigger picture. At that point, I was just happy to be on the road, traveling and working, 200 plus dates a year for the WWF, at the time, and making some money. So to me, Aldo was actually a pretty fun time, and I learned so much. And, I look at it now as actually a really nice time in my career where it was more positive than negative, believe it or not, even though the gimmick one could say was a bust. Still, it was a good, memorable time for me.
I still remember it all these years later, and the amount of guys that have come and gone. So there's something to be said about that, at least. But
so up here in Toronto, we're going to go start with the ECW stuff. We didn't get to see it on TV. So for myself, right, I had a cousin that lived in the States. She would always send me the VHS tapes, so on and so forth. We get the VHS tapes about 5-6 months later.
Oh, wow.
But I guess it's 1997 when you entered into ECW. Is that correct? You had many great feuds, like right off the bat, like Jerry Lynn, Tommy Dreamer, Mikey Whipwreck. Early ECW years, what was your favorite time or favorite match or feud at that time?
I would say it's a toss-up between Lynn and Dreamer, but I would go with Tommy Dreamer only because with Tommy, it was the first time in my entire career I was doing ladder matches. Doing not stairway to hell matches where it was a ladder match with a spool of barbed wire hung above the ring. And I'd never done any of this in my entire career. These were first times for me, and just kind of learning how to brawl. I was a very good wrestler. I was a well polished wrestler. Had a lot of experience under my belt as just a traditional pro wrestler. So to kind of become a lot more familiar with brawling and doing tables and stuff, which I'd never done. It was really cool, and I learned a lot. And that's because of Tommy. Tommy really taught me a lot about all of it, really, and how to kind of work that gimmick into what I do.
I guess when the Impact Players formed. Now, again, I guess Lance Storm was one of your trainers as well. You're back with them. Who all thought of that and brought it together? And how was that relationship formed? I guess again, I guess you never lost a relationship with Lance at that time, but like that to me was one of the most exciting things, seeing you and Lance Storm, being Canadian. As you can see, we're in the plaid, right? But how was it for you? Describe like the best, the highs and maybe the lows that you had during that time.
There were really no lows.
No.
Lance and we've always been and still are good friends. We saw this as a wonderful opportunity just to go out there and really our relationship was, we're two very extremely different people. What you see is what you get from both of us.
Right.
I'm a little more boisterous, a little more, go out and party, have a drink here and there, whatever. And Lance is very militant, very serious in real life. But we had a trust for one another. We loved one another as human beings. And, it was effortless. He taught me, pretty much almost, everything I knew. So when we went out there and did the Impact Players, it was a perfect balance. Like, whatever I wasn't, Lance was, as far as the tag team, and whatever Lance was, maybe he lacked a little bit of showmanship, charisma, whatever. I brought that. And when we intertwined, it's like I brought that out of him because then he started doing the pose, and Lance never posed before. And we just kind of, we fed off of one another, and we really helped one another in that way. So that counter of, each guy being kind of so different from one another, it blended well into the Impact Players. Kind of like, I'm not putting myself in that category, but like a Jim Neidhart, Bret Hart, both are polar opposites. Yeah. But as the Hart Foundation, they made sense. And that was the Impact Players. Like I said, I'm not comparing myself to their greatness, but it was similar. Like we were both very different, but together we made a great team. So it was super fun and super easy. We loved it.
You guys are probably to this day, still one of my favorite tag teams. You like, even how you described it right there, when you went out in the ring, like you could see you. Don't get me wrong, obviously everybody has a bad day, but you can see in your face that you truly enjoyed it, and it was great. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And you've seen it, and you're absolutely right. The Jim the Anvil, Bret Hart is exactly what you and Lance did, and put yourself up there because you guys were exactly like them, to me anyways, as a big fan.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, and it was so easy. Like, Lance knew everything about me. He was like there before I ever had my first match. He taught me everything. So if he knew a certain move would hurt me because I was concussion prone, Lance would kind of say, "I got this, PJ. I'll take this bump." We helped each other out in certain ways. Like, if I felt like this is my strong suit, I'll do that. And like, if he saw something he could help me with. So we were all about helping each other out to further the team. There was no ego. There was no, it was, it's a shame it didn't go longer because we could have, if we had put more time into it. Unfortunately, WCW came calling, and that was a great move for Lance professionally. But I always wonder if we'd have stayed together a bit longer, how much more we could have done, not just in ECW, but in the world of pro wrestling,
No, you guys are absolutely incredible. 2000, I guess you became the ECW champion, right? Yeah. How did they approach you on it? Or like who, I guess obviously it was Heyman that approached you and said you're going to be champ. Were you excited? Did you already know? Or seeing your build was so great, right? You knew you're going to be champ. automatically.
Yeah.
But how did you feel?
Dude, they told me, all I remember from that night, it was in Philadelphia. All I remember was I was dressed, but I wasn't on the sheet. I didn't have a match. So I was like, that's weird, because, usually they put most of their, I was a top guy. I was the tag team champion at the time. Remember when I won the title, Lance and I still had the tag team titles. So I was like, wow, I'm not on the sheet. What's going on? So only after intermission did Heyman come up to me and explain to me what was going to happen, probably 30 minutes before it happened. So I didn't have a whole hell of a lot of time to digest it. I don't know if he did it to not, for the sheet writers, or, the internet was starting to kind of be a thing. Right. And OneWrestling.com and back in the day was a thing. So I don't know if it was just to kind of keep it under wraps, but that's what it was, and he kept it very quiet. And a couple minutes later, I was world champion. So it was great, man. I mean, I know we don't really actually win the title. It's entertainment, but it meant a lot to me, because in wrestling, although it's not real, it's when you're crowned a world champion, it's like the company believes in you. They believe you could carry the main event. You could be the poster boy of the company. You could be a good representative of, not only the company, but of the sport or business of pro wrestling. So as a fan, 10, 11 years ago, watching Ric Flair, at a house show, and then myself being, 23, 24 years old, being a world champion only, 10, 11 years later was pretty cool.
No, it was great. I enjoyed that time again. You're one of the reasons why I watched, you are the reason why I watched ECW, and you are
that means the world.
Just like you said before, Bret Hart is another example of it. Like, believing in you and believing how it was. You were the Bret Hart of ECW to me. So thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the questions I got to you. I'm going to give you a person's name, and please respond. Describe only how you feel using one word.
Okay.
Tommy Dreamer.
Pro wrestling.
Sandman.
Drunk.
Raven. X-Pac.
Brother.
And last but not least, we'll go Lance Storm.
I don't want to say best friend, because we were never that close, but in the ring, just the one word I would say is soulmate in the ring. I guess it's hard. I was trying to really do it justice and not just say anything.
That's
great answer.
Great justice.
Great answer.
Eric, what about you?
Yeah, I was just wondering, I did have one question, well, two questions for you. I realized I wrote that down wrong. As you said earlier, you said the wrestling industry is continuing to grow. I was just wondering, for you personally nowadays, what do you like, or what excites you about the wrestling product today? Because there's so many options out there, right?
I mean, just the possibilities excite me. I love what's going on with, AEW and Impact kind of trading talent, and New Japan, just all of that. But there's what's missing, I think, in all of it that's going on right now, and it's through no fault of anyone, is this pandemic. I think in pro wrestling, we really came to see how integral and how important the fans are in live events and live attendance are to what we do. This business was kind of created to be a give and take between the guys in the ring and the fans around ringside, and to not have that for such a long time, is it's very it's crazy. It's like we realize, like, we can't judge or properly judge, I should say, who's over or who's not over, right? Because you need that ear, regardless of what people might say in the sheets, or ratings even are not that great at just pinpointing who is that over. It's that crowd that really will let baby face, heel, stuff like that. So that's what I miss the most. And I think right now that's like just the fans being away from it is really what I think is missing right now. And you realize how important they are. I don't think we take for granted at times how important the fans are to what we do. And even though the Thunderdome has been great, Impact, Ring of Honor, a lot of places have done good work. AEW has done good work with what they have. But man, it's just so, I just can't wait till this is over, this pandemic, for many reasons. But just to get fans back in the building and to really, they're our partners in telling these stories, because in ECW, what helped make ECW were the fans. They were the stars of the show.
Absolutely.
You know, if they weren't crazy like that and so passionate, we would have just been another promotion. And the fans helped make it. And I think the fans have the power to make wrestlers and promotions all over the world. And I hope when it finally does come back, you know, fans can understand how important they are to us and to the product itself, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, not having any fans in the stands or anything has been like really tough. I've known a lot of people who have actually dropped out of watching wrestling just because of it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see, because I've loved wrestling my whole life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think anything could make me not love it really at this point. But I did want to ask you one more question, and is what can we look forward to with Just Incredible after all this pandemic crap sort of clears up? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, right now, your guess is as good as mine. The one thing I have that is happening is I will be on season 3 of Dark Side of the Ring.
Nice.
I'll be on one of the episodes, and it will be, I can't say what episode it is, but it'll be a more lighthearted episode. It's not about anybody passing away or anything like that. It's on, you'll see see what it's about, and it'll be fun and kind of lighthearted. So I'm looking forward to it. We shot it a couple weeks ago, actually, in Philadelphia. So it'll be a fun one, and that's kind of the biggest thing I have going. I just can't wait to get back out there and get in the ring. I'm 47 years old, so I'm not getting any younger. I just just want to get back out there as soon as possible. You know.
Do you ever come up to any of the promotions up in Ontario or the Canada way, or?
I don't.
No?
Unless you're being booked, it's really far to just drive. You know what I mean?
True.
That's a 10 to 12 hour drive at least. So nah. You know, hopefully I get up there again before I hang it all up, though. You know, Toronto has always been very good to me.
Well, do you have anything that you'd like to plug or put away or anything before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, just like I said earlier, just follow me on Twitter at PJ Polaco, and also follow me on Instagram, same handle, at PJ Polaco. And of course, ProWrestlingTees.com/Just Incredible. I have over 20 designs, some retro, some new school stuff, even some Aldo Montoya. So, if you're into that kind of thing, go check it out. And that's it.
Good. Well, thank you for coming by today. I know Matt, Eric, truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Everything will be on the Everything will be on the website, We the Dark Order North, and the Facebook group, Dark Side of the Elite. Go to the Pro Wrestling Tees, go get his stuff. Go follow him on Twitter, reach out to him. Thank you for coming today.
Oh, thank each and every one of you guys. It was really nice. It was a fun conversation, and look forward to talking to you guys again very soon.
Thanks, PJ.
All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good night.